Good morning, everybody. Thanks for joining me. That hot drink is good. Good morning. I want to talk about heart pathology today. And of course, I'm talking about the Chinese heart. That's why I call it heart. She is the pinyin name for Chinese heart. And of course, we all have a Western heart and we have a Chinese heart. They're very similar, not exactly the same though. There's some very important differences. We're going to go through those. What I mean by heart pathology is something called differential diagnosis, which means all the various problems that can go wrong with your Chinese heart. So that's what we're going to discuss. That's in part 2, by the way, in my book. Part 3, some suggestions on what you can do about these syndromes to heal yourself and help others heal. So right now we're going to talk about what goes wrong with the heart. Well, of course, the first thing you got to realize is that the shen lives in the heart. Okay, the shen is that substance, one of those 5 substances that determines behavior. It determines behavior by gathering information, right? Rational thinking, memory, that's yang. The 5 senses and the feelings, mad, glad, sad, scared, and bored, that's yin. All that information that gathers together to come out with information on what to do at that moment. See, it's moment by moment, your actions, including what you're thinking. That's an action. So a healthy shen in a healthy heart chooses a behavior that is appropriate to that moment because it has all the information and it's coming through loud and clear. So on all of these heart pathologies, we're going to find a problem with the shen. We're going to find some inappropriate behavior in some way or other. Well, that's always a tip-off that we've got heart shi pathology going on here. So let's go through some of these syndromes. A syndrome is not a disease; it's a collection of symptoms and signs that point to a pattern. So it's a pattern, right? So. Well, first of all, of course, people who hurry a lot through life, and in advanced industrial countries, that's what people do, is they hurry all the time. It takes something like a coronavirus to slow everybody down and realize, wow, I've been hurrying my whole life away. Well, not only do you rush past the roses and not smell them, which is kind of inappropriate, right? But and I realize it's a money scramble for many people, trying to pay the rent, trying to pay the bills. Still, what's most important? Your health. I hope your health is more important than anything. And paying the bills is part of being healthy, but it's only part of it. So let's take a look at the heart. It's always beating, isn't it? The heart is always moving. I mean, as long as you are alive, your heart is moving, right? You can even hold your breath and your lungs won't be moving, but your heart's still moving, right? So that's a lot of friction. And all that friction adds up to heart heat. Well, it's natural for the heart to be warm. It has all that friction, but excess heat generated in the body or even outside, from outside the body, goes right to the heart and makes it very unhappy, hurrying too much. So by this I mean people who are rushing through life, who are working constantly and constantly producing, constantly needing to produce, needing to work, needing to do stuff instead of relaxing, because we're really meant to be half and half, half producing, half goofing off and sleeping. That's humans, because we're omnivores. So so hurrying, and I see that a lot in people. I see it a lot in younger people too, where they are jittery. You can see their legs shaking under the table, in a restaurant or a coffee shop or wherever they are. They're shaking, they're jittery. They're like this all the time. Oh, I've got to hurry up. Like that. That's heart heat. That's heart heat, yeah. And it can affect the shen, of course, because you can be irritable. That's irritable. When you're hot, you're irritable, right? And not only does it make you jumpy, it makes your immune system jumpy. This is autoimmune. This is an epidemic. Autoimmune diseases popping up all over the place. It's amazing, and it's the immune system being too busy. Really, is busy really your badge of honor? You know, is that how you present yourself so that you can feel good about yourself? Don't really, because it's pathological. You can't be busy all the time and be healthy. Autoimmune is when your immune system, your Wei Qi, is too busy, so busy that it runs out of bad guys and starts going after the good guys. It starts burning up material, burning cells, literally burning with that friction. This is the cause of a lot of paralysis and strange mental disorders. Brain inflammation, essentially, because the immune system is attacking brain cells. ALS, MS, Parkinson's, these are some of the common brain inflammation diseases. Don't forget that heat travels up. So as it travels up, it goes through the heart, and then it goes up into the head very often. So a lot of head problems. And then this shows up red, swollen, because that's heat, red and swollen, right? That makes sense, right? Anything is burning, a burning pain, anyway. And all these inflammatory diseases, like a swollen knee that's hot to the touch, that's red, hot to the touch, that's inflammation. That can come from hurrying too much. So there are a lot of problems that come from hurrying. Multitasking, very common these days. You know, I see on the boardwalk, kids who have heat anyway, and they're texting as they're rolling down the boardwalk on a skateboard, right? Or a bicycle, or a car, right? All this creates heat. We're not meant to double task. We're not meant for that. We're not designed for that. We're designed to do one task and do it well, and then move on to the next task. But the ethos is the money scramble, and you've got to do 2 things at once. You've got to do 3 things at once. Let's do 4 things at once. Why not? Aren't you good enough to do that? Okay, so it's like a kind of virtue signaling among a generation of people. They'll outgrow that. Now, when qi becomes involved in stagnation, when the qi is stagnant, then you have heart qi stagnation. This can come from liver qi stagnation. So, for example, sudden shock, right? A sudden fright where everything tightens up. This can cause a heart attack. If the heart can't pump, well, then it gets stuck. And then when the heart doesn't pump, the person dies. Yeah, or could die, right? So that is qi stagnation, often coming from liver qi stagnation. I did that in a previous segment. Liver qi stagnation, very common, very weighty, but constantly feeling fear. Of course, a lot of that pain from constant fear that's really unnecessary and not related to the moment. Fearing for the future, for example, is very common. That tightens up your muscles and you don't even know it. It can tighten up all kind of muscles, but it can also tighten up the rib cage and tighten muscles around the heart, which can lead to heart attack again. Of course, when someone's having a heart attack, they feel doom and gloom, as they should. They feel doomed. Well, that's that shen saying, yeah, yikes. Something's wrong here. Get attention right now, right? That's always what pain is, you know. And that creates that blood stagnation. So when the qi gets stagnated in the heart, wow, the blood stops. And blood stagnation is a sharp stabbing pain in one place. So that's your typical heart attack where the heart stops. It's blocked. Right? So, and then excess weight. Well, excess weight, that's excess yin. So we had excess yang with the heat and the stagnation. Excess yin can overpower the heart, can flood the heart and the lungs, causing congestive heart failure, where it's just so congested in there, the heart gets bigger and bigger, trying to pump, work harder and harder to pump through all of this material that's surrounding it and suffocating it. Finally, it gives up. That's CHF, congestive heart failure. Again, that's a kind of a heart attack. The heart stops pumping. Bad news, right? And then we get the phlegm. Phlegm. Heart phlegm, right? This is usually when qi is stagnant around the heart. See, qi moves everything. It moves blood, but it moves fluids. We call it jin ya. When the jin ya slow down, they start collecting. And if they collect around the heart, then it causes phlegm. So all that information and what I talked about earlier, about information coming in, it has to come in through a clear pane of glass. If that glass is cloudy, then it doesn't come through. So that if it doesn't come through a little bit, if it gets distorted as it comes through to the shen, a little bit, they call it neurosis. We would call it disturbed shen. If it's really disturbed, then that's psychosis, and that's where a person can't even function. That's serious heart phlegm. Okay, and that's more or less an emergency or or heroic intervention, where possibly a drug, prescribed by a medical doctor, might clear some of that phlegm so that the person can get into some kind of therapy, some kind of program, and work on that basic fear. It's usually fear that initiated it. So there we go. Heart pathology, heart qi. Be careful. Yeah, but it's good to know. It's always good to know stuff. All right. Thanks for joining me. And I'll see you next time.